loan, which for some of you, that's probably the most common way to get your deals funded is through a hard money lender. But for me, in my case, because I had, gotten my credit score had went down like 200 points after I was trying to sustain this real estate business, I couldn't even go to a hard money lender. So I had to figure out, how can I purchase more real estate? How can I scale my portfolio without having to use hard money or without having to use my own money? And so that's where I started learning about private money. And so we'll go ahead and just get right into it. Why private money? Man, there's so many reasons why you would want to use private money. We always hear people say that you can use OPM, which is other people's money, to fund your deals, which, like I said, is typically a hard money lender. And I know that many of you who are probably using a hard money lender, they're requiring you to have, a certain amount of money in your bank account. So that way, when you start the project, they know that you've got a nest egg in your account to where you can start on your renovations or whatever it is. And so even if you were to go to a hard money lender, you still need to have at least $20,000 to $30,000 sitting in the bank in order for them to qualify you. Most hard money lenders. They require a certain credit score. And so if you were anything like me, where you once had a high credit score and then a few things happened and now your credit score is below that threshold that they want, that could also hinder you from being able to get a hard money loan. And then another thing about hard money is that they are not giving you all of the money that you need up front for your rehab. So basically, the way that it works is that $20,000 to $30,000 that they want you to have in your bank account, they're expecting for you to use some of that to do like a little bit of the rehab, and then they will come out, see that you've made progress, and then they'll reimburse you. And you guys kind of do that dance throughout the duration of the term of the loan. And so for some people, especially for those who are like, I don't have $20,000, $30,000 in my bank account, it pretty much disqualifies you from being able to get your deals funded that way. And so, I mean, how many times have you had to like have your own money when going to get a hard money loan? It's like it's not 100% other people's money. You're still having to come out of pocket something. And when I first heard about OPM, other people's money, I was thinking I can get into a deal without any of my own money, like zero of my own money. And oftentimes that just was not the case. And so I had to start thinking of ways that I could truly get into a deal similar like you guys here. You guys need to get into a deal with zero out of pocket. And that is the way that I'm purchasing deals now. I may have to pay $100 to file for the LLC, but I mean, from the time I have to give my earnest money deposit, which is that initial deposit of maybe $3,000 to $5,000, that tells the seller that you're serious. Between that and then the money to acquire the property, all of that, I'm using private money. So when I say that I can literally get into a deal with $0 out of pocket, that is only through private money. And so, who can be a private money lender? I want you guys to understand that a private money lender can be anybody. I like to tell people, the moment that you walk outside your door, everybody that you encounter is a potential private money lender, whether that be your mailman, whether that be the lady at the grocery store or the guy at Home Depot. It really doesn't matter. And I think the thing that we kind of have to get away from is trying to count other people's pockets, because that's what I used to do. I used to be like, there's no way that this person has money. There's no way they have $100,000 to invest with me. And then you start talking to people and you find out that, little Susie, who's the mailman or the mailwoman, she got an inheritance from her aunt that passed away a year ago. And she's got $200,000 just sitting in this trust that she has no idea what to do with. So you just never know what somebody's situation is. So never count anybody out. And so a private money lender can be a stranger on an airplane. And I say this because my very first private money lender, as Tiffany knows, what came from a guy that I met on an airplane on a 3 hour flight. And just through that 3 hour conversation, afterwards, he says, "You know what? I've actually got $200,000 sitting in my 401k. How can I invest it with you?" And this was a complete stranger, you guys. We didn't know each other from Adam. We sat down, we had a conversation. I told him I was a real estate investor. He told me that he was an engineer, but he also did fix and flips on the side. And he said that he was at that point, he's 70 years old. He was just at that point where he was tired of doing fix and flips. It was kind of becoming hard on his body. And he wanted a more passive way to invest. And so, just through casual conversation, we found out that we both kind of needed each other. And that's how I raised my first $100,000 to purchase a fourplex. And so, it can be a stranger on a plane, somebody that you meet at a conference. We're always going to these different conferences and these different business events. That is a prime location to talk to people and find out whether you might be, in front of your next private money lender. um, Old family friends. One of my mom's friends from, like, I don't know, I think they went to school in like elementary. She had seen some of my posts on Facebook. My mom, she's like that mom that like shares all of my stuff, even if she don't know what's going on, she gonna share her daughter's stuff. And so just through that, her friend from like elementary reached out to me and was like, "Hey, Tilisa, I've got $500,000 that I need to invest. I know your mom. I've been knowing her for some years now. How do I lend with you?" Right? Coworkers, if you're still at your 9 to 5 job, many of you guys are working with people who used to work at another organization, and they have old money sitting in an old retirement account that they can't touch until they're 65. You start having conversations with them about the real estate deals you're doing, the returns that you can give your investors, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. They'll start to ask you, "Well, hey, how can I invest with you?" And so many of you probably have several private money lenders just within your small group, your small network, that you could be utilizing. Old college buddies, close friends and family, students in your mentorship. A lot of us are a part of like these masterminds or like these big paid mentorships. Trust me, if they had 10 to 15,000 to invest in the mentorship, then they've probably got some money aside that they could invest as a private money lender. So when I say who can be a private money lender, you guys, anybody can be a private money lender. A private money lender is not a bank. It's not a financial institution. It's not a hard money lender. It's not any of those things. It's just person to person, right? So when we go into how much money can you actually borrow from a private money lender, I say this, and I say this with all seriousness, that as much money as you need to complete the project. Whether that's $50,000, whether that's $5 million, you can borrow as much as you need. I mean, given that the deal makes sense and the deal makes money. And so it really kind of puts you in this position where you're not limited to single family. You're not limited to just duplexes or quadplexes. If you want to go after a big hotel deal, you can use private money. If you want to go after a big multifamily deal, same thing. And so it really puts you in a position where you get to decide where you want to invest, and not what you think money is constricting you to be able to invest in. And so, what can private money be used for? Private money can be used for your fix and flip. So you may have some investors on here who want to buy a property that needs a lot of work, and you also need to have the money so that you can renovate it. You also need to have money so that you can keep up the utilities every month until you get that property closed. All of that you can use private money for. Staging. Let's say you're done with your fix and flip and now you need to stage it. You can use private money to stage the property. Your carrying cost, all of that. You can use private money. I said this earlier. You can use private money for your earnest money deposit. So, and I'll give you guys just a brief example. I just closed on another property last week, and a good friend of mine, she has about $40,000 sitting in a old 401k trust. And she was just like, Tilisa, my kids are about to be going to college in the next couple of years, and I have no idea how I'm going to be able to afford it. Like, I need to start putting this money to work. She says, do you have anything that I can invest, in you? And I said, well, I 40,000, my deals normally require at least 75,000. I said, so you don't have enough to fund my deal. However, I said, my earnest money is $3,000. And I said, so if you want to lend me the $3,000 for my deposit, then you can do that. And she says, oh my goodness, that's amazing. She was like, so how much can I charge you? And I said, you decide. I can tell you what I would like for you to charge me, but ultimately, you are the bank now. And so she ended up charging me $500 in interest. So I borrowed $3,000. That money she wired directly to the title company. Obviously, there's paperwork that's involved, but she wires that money directly to the title company. And then I was under contract. And so last week when we closed, I made sure that my title company, when they wired her money back, they wired her back 3,500, and I think it was like $20. And so she got that money. And so just within 8 days, just within 8 days, her $3,000 made an extra $520. And so you can have your deal completely funded with private money if you know how to structure the deal, you know how to talk to people, you know how to talk about what private money is, what it can be used for, and things like that. You can use private money to fund your BRRRR. And so for those of you who may not be familiar with a BRRRR, that is where you buy the property, you rehab it, you refinance it, and then you repeat that cycle again. And so with these properties, once you acquire the property, let's say that the property is $100,000, your private money lender is going to give you that. And then let's say it's going to take another $50,000 to rehab that property. So now you're borrowing $150,000. And so once that project is entirely done, then your private money lender can then basically refinance you out of like a hard money loan, and they will now be carrying the note. And so every single month when you pay your mortgage, you're going to be paying that to a private money lender. And so for some of you who may not be as familiar with some of these terms, just look up like the BRRRR strategy and you'll understand what I'm talking about. But the point that I'm trying to get is that you can use private money for just about any real estate deal. I know some people who have used private money to actually wholesale. So some of you may be wholesalers on here, and in order for you to get into the deal, maybe you need $10,000, $15,000. But you know that once you get this property under contract, you've got like 10 buyers that you can then assign this deal to. That $10,000 to $15,000 that you may need to get into that wholesale deal, you can raise that with private money. So really, there's nothing that you can't use private money for when it comes to real estate. I mean, and not even just real estate. Real estate's all that I've ever used private money for, but I see people using private money to buy businesses, all sorts of things. And so they're getting really creative now. One of the big questions that I get is, okay, but when do I have to pay my private money lenders back? This is also one of those things that I'm being completely serious, really whenever you want. within reason. So let's say that you're working on a fix and flip, and typically your hard money lender is going to want that money paid back in 6 months, right? You can't negotiate with a hard money lender. There is no, well, I think that we should be able to sell in 6 months, but if the deal for some reason doesn't sell, then I want to increase that to 12 months. You can't do that with hard money, but with private money, you can. So, like, what we will do is if we're getting into a fix and flip and we think that we can get our money back, we can sell the property within 6 months, we're going to tell our private money lender, we're going to hold on to your money for 12 months. And so within that 12 months, we're likely going to sell the property within 6 to 8 months, but it gives us that extra wiggle room just in case something happens in the market and there's a shift and their buyers are just not coming. So you're able to set those terms up really so that way you can sleep better at night. I've got a lady right now, a friend of mine, and she is stressed. She is stressed because her hard money lender, obviously, she has to make monthly payments to them, and she's run out of capital. She's run out of money for her rehab, so she can't do the things that she wants to do. And now it's almost that time where she has to pay that hard money lender back the full principal, and they've been on the market for 45 days and they just haven't had any interested buyers. And so she is stressed. She's like, I think I'm going to have to go to foreclosure because the hard money lenders, they want their money back. And so these are some of the things, these are some of the flexibilities that private money lenders kind of allow you to do. um, so like I was saying, if you're working on a fix and flip, you pay your lender back when you sell the property, which means that the entire time you're working on the project, you're not having to pay monthly carrying costs and you can just focus on completing the project. So like I was just saying, hard money lenders, they're going to require you to make those monthly payments. Just like my friend, she still has to pay the utilities, the lights, the water. She still has to pay all of that on a property that's not making any money. And so when you raise private money, I always raise more money than what I actually need to close the deal. And why do I do that? Well, for one reason, the properties that I'm acquiring, they're buy and hold properties. And my exit strategy is a little different than most. I'm not just putting one single tenant in. I may be renting out the rooms. I may be renting out beds. And so in that case, I can't get all of those rooms filled within, 30 days. Sometimes it takes me 60, 90, 120 days just to get all those rooms filled. So that way I'm generating the revenue that I expected during projections. And so when I'm raising money, I always raise at least 6 to 8 months worth of reserves just so that I can pay my bills, just so that I can pay my mortgage, I can pay my utilities, and it's not coming out of my personal funds. This is all money that I've raised that's built into those reserves. So that's another amazing thing. Your furniture, like let's say you are doing a buy and hold and you're going to rent this property out on Airbnb, you can use private money to get the furniture so that way you can go ahead and get it listed and get those bookings that you need. And so that's really why I love using private money. It's really flexible. um, Same thing with, as far as like the term, you guys get to decide how long. So like I was saying, if you're doing a fix and flip, you know that it's going to take you 6 months. You tell your private money lender, we're going to pay you back in 12 months just so that you can have that buffer of time. For me, I'm doing buy and holds, which means that in order for my private money lenders to get paid back, my property actually has to sit for a while so that it can appraise in value. So that way, when I do go to refinance, I can have enough money when I pull money out, I'll have enough money to pay back my private money lender. So typically, my private money lenders, they're in my deals anywhere between 3 to 5 years. And for most of them, that works out perfectly because they're using money from an old retirement account and they can't do nothing with that money anyway. It's not like, you know, if they have a detrimental situation happen that they're going to be able to take that money out of their 401k and use it for bills or whatever else. So they know that this money, I can't touch it for at least another 10 to 15 years. If Tilisa can put my money to work for 3 to 5 years and I can earn way more than what my retirement is giving me, then that's a deal. So understand that when I say, when do you have to pay your private money lender back? It really just depends on how long you feel like you need to hold on to their money. But obviously within reason, right? And while you're holding on to their money, you are paying them their interest. So, like for my private money lenders, because they know that my deals, it takes at least 90 days to 120 days for me to get at full occupancy. Um, they are completely okay with me paying them quarterly interest payments. And so, if you, let's say you need $100,000 and you're going to pay your private money lender 10% annualized interest on that money. Let me get my calculator. I know I'm like supposed to be the accountant on the call, but when I'm presenting, it's kind of hard to do my math. Okay, so if you're raising $100,000 and you're going to pay your private money lender 10% interest, that means that you're going to be paying them $10,000 a year. And so if you just divide that by 12, you would be paying them $833 a month. That's just their interest, right? So for me, my private money lenders, they're getting quarterly payments. So if this was one of my lenders, I would just times that $833 times 3, and I'd be paying them about $2,500 every quarter in interest. Okay. So when you're figuring these numbers out, oh, and you know what? Let me say this. If you're doing a fix and flip, you don't have to worry about paying those monthly interest payments. Most private money lenders understand that when you're doing a fix and flip, they're not going to get their interest payment until after the deal closes. So they'll get their principal and their interest all in one lump sum, which is really sweet for you guys because that means that during that entire time that you're working on the project, you're not having to cover interest payments out of your own personal money, right? But as far as like me, I have got buy and hold deals. My deals should start generating revenue at least by like month 2. So I make sure that every single month, the revenue that I'm bringing in, minus my expenses, there is enough to cover my private money lender and my profit, right? And so for those of you who like feel like, you know what, I need to start raising money, like this has kind of like been that missing piece. I want you to know that it is very simple if you're willing to take the action steps. So something that I share with just about all of my mentees, like from the very beginning, is I tell them to copy this verbiage right here. This is the basic text message that I send out to just about everybody in my phone. And I'll just say, hey, so-and-so, quick question. I'm in the middle of raising capital for my real estate projects, and I'm offering investors double-digit returns backed by real estate. I'll be giving an online presentation for potential investors, and I could really use your feedback on what I need to improve on. Are you okay with me adding you to the webinar email list when I host it? If so, which email should I use? Thank you. I would say about 89% of the time, everybody that responds back is like, oh yeah, Tilisa, sure, here's my email. Yeah, let me know whenever the webinar is. And so this text message, I like it because there's no pressure. There's no pressure. I'm reaching out to people saying, hey, I would really love your feedback, right? But they're not knowing that they're the ones that are going to be my potential private money lenders. Because when they come to my webinar, and during this webinar, you know, you'll want to have a deal that you can present to somebody. You're going to want to be able to tell them how much money you're looking for, what the annualized interest is that you can pay them, how long you think that you're going to need their money for. And just during this webinar, you're going to be explaining to them where they can park their funds, what kind of money that they can use. So people can use, like I just said earlier, you have a lot of people that have money sitting in an old retirement account. They can use that money to fund your deals. Let's say that somebody has a property, a house that they live in, and they've got tons of equity in that house. They can actually pull a HELOC, which is a home equity line of credit, and against their property, and they can lend that money out to you as a private money lender. And so the question that you will get is, okay, if I pull out this HELOC, my bank's going to charge me 4% just to, just to pull it out. And so that's when you say, yes, exactly. And I'm going to be paying you 12%. And so that way they can still pay, they'll have enough to pay the 4% that the bank is charging them, but then they also have an additional excess amount of money that they're making in profit. And so there's so many ways. I had a lady who lent me money that she got from a business loan. She applied for a business loan. It was a $100,000 loan, and she ended up lending us about $52,000 on that business loan. And she made 12% interest on that money. Instead of just, putting it into her business and using it for expenses and depleting it, she was like, I'm going to lend this money out so I can make it grow. So now her business has more money than what it did than when she first got the business loan. So there's so many ways. My dad is the type of man who he hides money or he stores money under his mattress. He's probably got thousands of dollars. He's been like that ever since I was little. And so you have those people who are saving money under a mattress or saving money in a savings account, which is just as bad because that money is not making any money. If you go to your bank right now and you ask them to put your money in one of their low yield savings accounts, you're probably going to be making about 1%, maybe less on that money that's sitting in the savings account. And so I tell people, move your money out of those tools that aren't gaining you double digit returns. If they can't give you 10 to 12% like I'm going to give you, then you need to be moving your money out of there so that way you can actually be putting it to work. I like to think of my money as little men, right? And so these men or women, they're supposed to be out here working and making me more money. And so if my money is just sitting in a savings account or my money is sitting in an old 401k, hardly making anything, or sitting under my mattress, those men are just being lazy. And somebody has to work. Either I have to work or my money has to work. I prefer the latter. I prefer for my money to work so that way I don't have to work as hard. And the people that you guys approach, they're also going to not want to work so hard. They're going to want their money to work harder than them. And so if you are serious, just take a screenshot of this. And even though you may not know the next steps, what is this webinar going to look like? What am I going to say? Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. I always say, just do, don't think. Just do, don't think. Take this, copy it, send it out to people. People just need to know exactly what you're doing. Get that email list together. That's all you're doing. You're just gathering an email list of people who are interested in coming to your webinar. When they come to your webinar, whenever that is, they're going to want to know more. So they're going to think that they're there just to provide you feedback. And then when the webinar is done, they're going to be calling you like, hey, Antonio, I know you wanted my feedback, but man, how do I do this thing? I've got about $40,000 stashed away somewhere. Like, how do I become a private money lender, right? And so I love this message right here because there really is no pressure. So I give you guys like 5 more seconds. Just take a screenshot of this. And if you're bold, copy, paste it, and send it out to just about everybody in your phone and watch how quickly that email list grows of potential private money lenders. And so let's go ahead and stop for a minute and we'll do some question and answers just to see like where you guys are. Are you guys completely lost? Are you guys following? So I'll go ahead and Antonio, I'm not sure exactly how you normally do it. Do people just call out their questions or?
So I'll ask. Well, I'll let Dan handle that part of it. But let me ask a question real quick. So you mentioned what you said, annualized returns. You normally provide annualized returns. So as a private money lender myself, I like to do not annualized. Like I like to do simple interest because I get more money, right? So have you ever ran into an investor or not investor, a private money lender that wanted to give you money but didn't want to do annualized? They wanted to do simple instead?
So this is the thing. When it comes to me raising private money, I am the authoritative figure. So I am offering 12% annualized. If you're not okay with 12% annualized, you're probably not the private money lender for me. And I'll refer them to another investor who is doing simple interest. And so that's one thing that you guys have to be able to combat and kind of know when to stand your ground. You know what you can afford. What you don't want to do is you don't want to get into a deal and somebody says, I want simple interest plus 2 points. And just because you are, and I don't want to say this, but just because you're hurting for money or you really want to close this deal or you're desperate, you take it and you agree, and then you can't follow through. So
Right.
if you can follow through and they offer or they're wanting these different interest structures, then great. But I know that for my deals, I can only afford to do annualized. And so know when to stand your ground is what I'll
Gotcha.
say.
That makes sense. And then one more question, then I'll turn it over to Justin. So how do you structure the deals to make the lender feel protected? Because like, let's say you get like that person on the plane. Was that their first time lending money? Do you remember? Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. So how do you structure the deals to make the lender feel protected, especially when it's a first time person that never lent money before?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, me personally, and what I teach my mentees is we always want to protect, secure, and insure our private money lenders. So, we protect them, one, with a promissory note, a notarized promissory note. Two, we are giving them a lien position against the property, whether that's first lien position, whether that's second or third lien, so that if something happens, God forbid, and we have to foreclose, our private money lenders are in second lien, third lien position, and they can come and take they'll get the property before we can do anything. So we make sure that they get a lien position. And then lastly, we make sure that they're added to the insurance. And so if you're doing a fix and flip, that's going to be the builder's risk insurance. You're going to add them as an additional insurer. If you are doing a buy and hold, it's same thing. It's not risk insurance. It's just the landlord insurance, and you just add them onto there as well. So if the investor that you are looking to lend with is not able to protect you with a promissory note, secure you with a deed of trust where you're able to get a lien position and add you to the insurance, I would not do it.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome. What else we got? Oh, Justin.
We got
Yes.
Justin. Justin, please unmute yourself. You have the power, sir.
I wanted to say thank you for coming on and giving us all this great information.
You are so welcome.
Awesome.
My and I have two questions. You kind of answered them both. And so my question is, have you come into a situation where you promised an investor, you know, whatever percent or return, and then the deal kind of went bad and having to foreclose and sell that? So what did you do to kind of keep their trust moving forward in order to get them to lend for another deal, even though like one went bad?
So I personally, thank God, I'll knock on wood, I've never been in a situation where I wasn't able to pay my private money lenders or a deal went bad. However, I do have a friend who is in that situation. And right now, some of the options that we're exploring is doing a cash out refinance. So in this person's situation, they did the fix and flip, they listed it, and when the buyer started to come out, the inspector found out that there were foundation issues. She hired a crappy contractor who didn't let her know that there were foundation issues. And now it's like extremely difficult to sell, but she's got to pay her private money lender back. So she's going to have to do a refinance. She's going to have to get 80% loan to value. So that way she can pay her private money lender back. So sometimes that means that you may have to pivot. You might go into it thinking that this is a fix and flip, and then realize later, like, oh crap, I can't sell this property. And now it turns into a burr where you're having to do a cash out refinance and pay your private money lender back. And so there's always going to be those situations. Me personally, when I do my promissory notes, I personally guarantee my private money lenders. And for some of you, that might be kind of scary because you're like, well, shoot, I don't have $100,000 in the event that, I can't pay my private money lender. That's something that you kind of have to, you've got to use your integrity with this. One thing that I'll say is when people are raising private money, everybody's all happy and go lucky and everything's great. And then when things start to start to go bad, their communication stops, they start sweating, they start panicking, they start reacting. And that's where you really mess yourself up with your private money lenders. And so I always say to people, be upfront with your private money lenders from the beginning. The moment that you find out that there's foundation issues and you're not able to sell this property, contact your private money lender and say, hey, this is what's going on. Never leave them just in the dark and then at the last minute say, hey, don't know what to tell you, can't pay you anymore. And so hopefully that answers your question, given that I haven't actually experienced it. But one, you're either going to pay your private money lender out of your own savings, or you're going to pull equity out of one of your other properties so that you can pay your private money lender. So you make sure that they have a personal guarantee, or you pivot, you refinance, you do what you need to do to get your private money lender paid. There have been situations with people that I work with where they haven't been able to pay their private money lender, and it's been 3 years, and their private money, because they've had such good communication with their private money lender, their private money lender is willing to work with them, and they're just like, hey, Ashley, I know that you're stressing. I know that you're doing everything that you can. I know that, this was not your fault. This was just, the economy. And so some private money lenders are just willing to work with you and ride it out. Now, if you are afraid that, I don't want to borrow somebody's money and likely not be able to pay them back in 6 months, 12 months, whatever it is, you can always offer your private money lender an equity position. And so if you offer them equity instead of a debt position, basically you're asking them to be your partner. So you're partnering, maybe because you're going to do all the operations, you're going to get 70% of the equity, and your private money lender is going to get 30%. But their money is in the deal long term. So if you guys have a loss, they know they're going to take a 30% loss. If you guys have a gain, they know that they're going to take a 30% gain. And so sometimes structuring it to where your private money lender is actually an equity partner will kind of alleviate you in knowing that I don't ever have to just pay them back this principal until, and never. If you guys decide to sell in 10 years, they get 30% of the profits, you get 70%. So I would say if you're feeling a little skittish, offer them equity instead of a debt position. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. I always like to go in it from the worst case scenario. Like if this is the worst thing to happen, kind of what is just kind of like your escape route. So I definitely appreciate it.
You're welcome. Who else we got?
Yes, do we have any other questions? I have one from Amanda. Amanda, you going to come off of mute?
Yes.
Shout out to you.
so much for that content. That is so valuable. I love the fact that you mentioned integrity as we're going through this, because I've dealt with private money lender once, and unfortunately it didn't go through because his previous lender was just not honest and upfront. So I didn't want to deal with him because I know he had a bad experience. My question to you really is about as a new investor. I know for me starting off, I'm not so comfortable offering double digit return. So I'm just curious as to how you're able to do that as a new investor, or what you would recommend for as a new investor in terms of offering that kind of return.
Yeah, so I actually have a private money lender now who she's only getting 9%. And so what you'll find is that you don't have to offer double digit returns. Me personally, I do, but you don't have to. So if you want to change that wording a bit and just say, I can get you, 5 to 9%, returns on your investment, you can always change that wording. I think what you want to do is find out what their money is currently earning. So if their money is sitting in a 401k, an old 401k, and it's only earning 3%, maybe you offering them 6 to 7% is like a deal for them. And they're like, oh my goodness, I would never get this in my 401k. And so you can always adjust it to what you feel like you're able to do. Otherwise, like I said before, offer them equity. And maybe it's not a 70-30 split. Maybe it's an 80-20 split. But I think that using either of those can kind of put you more at ease and knowing that you can actually pay them. You can actually pay them what you're saying that you can. Because I get what you're saying. You don't want to say that I can give you double digit returns and then you're barely even making enough profit, right? And so you'll want to just kind of look at each option and figure out what each deal allows you to do.
Got it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Amanda. I think Justin has another question. Justin, do you have another question?
Yes, I do.
Or did he forget?
Go for it, sir.
Oh, okay. Hey, Justin.
So hey, I'm sorry. Every time someone says something else pops in. So when you were first started building your investor list, I know a lot of times it's funny that our family is the first ones to hate on us, let alone to give us money. So when you're building up your list, I guess, did you first try and kind of put that out to the atmosphere to your family? Did you build up your list? Like how did you kind of start building up your list, if you don't mind?
So my family ain't got no money. So even if I would have asked them, they'd be like, Tilisa, I got $10 for you, girl.
Gotcha.
So that's I love private money, is because you don't have to go to family members. Me personally, I opted to reach out to other people in my network, old colleagues, old people that I went to college with, people that I had connected with in the real estate space. Antonio and I were just talking how, nowadays we're making friends with people before we even actually meet them in person. And so I had a lot of those connections, especially in like the real estate industry, where I'd connected with certain people on Facebook and we just kind of stayed in touch. And I reached out to all of those individuals. And so that's kind of how I started building my list out. But like I said earlier, my very first private money lender came from I was on an airplane, and literally a 3-hour conversation. And I'll say that I didn't have a whole lot of experience at the time. I had acquired a property that we were doing Airbnb in Dallas. So I actually felt very unqualified. I actually felt like I had the imposter syndrome. And so I was afraid that this guy was going to like grill me on like all these questions that I didn't know how to answer. And ultimately, if you're just having honest conversation and you're saying, hey, I'm a new real estate investor and I'm looking to purchase my first deal. I'm a part of some amazing community that have some amazing coaches that are kind of holding me along the way. But my biggest dilemma is the money piece. And so I think that the more transparent you are with people, the more willing they are to invest with you. It's when somebody comes to them and everything's so perfect. Oh yeah, the deal's a killer deal. It's going to make this much X amount of money. And there's just all this amazing things that they have to say about it. And never once they talk about what could potentially go wrong. That's where people are kind of like, it sounds too good to be true. So I feel like the more transparent and authentic you are with people, the more they're able to see like, oh, this is just another human being like me. Like they don't want to screw up. They want to provide wealth for their family, just like I want to provide wealth for my family. I'm still new at this. I've never been a private money lender before. So we're really kind of going in this together, and we're trying to build trust with one another. And so to answer your question, no, I did not go to my family and friends because they're broke. And so I went to other people that I had connected with throughout life. And surprisingly, some of those people that you worked with 5-10 years ago, you'd be surprised at how many of them be like, wait, what are you doing now? Wait, so how are you? Okay, cool. Tell me a little bit more, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I think what I'm also gathering, and just in general, kind of with some of the things I've noticed, is when you tell people about what you're doing, you'd be surprised who's willing to invest in you and what people buy from people. So
Yes, absolutely. But I think that we do people a huge disservice by not telling them what we're doing in real estate. I mean, I feel like you need to be shouting it from the rooftops. I was telling people I was a real estate investor before I even had a property. Like you speak things into existence. And so if anybody takes anything from this call, start talking about what you're doing. Start posting on social media. Hey, just looked at a property today. Even if you have no plans on buying it, start posting so that people get an idea of what you're into. So that way, when you do present them with this webinar, they're like, oh yeah, I kind of have a little bit of idea what they're doing. You know what I mean?
yes, for sure. Thank you again.
Awesome. What else? You're welcome.
Thank you, Justin. Question from Jonathan in the chat. Do you have any templates or for deals that you structure that you would be able to share?
Templates as far as, so like a pitch deck?
I don't know.
Is that what
Let's
you're
see if
referring
Jonathan will
to?
come
Or like,
off mute. Jonathan, do you mind?
Yeah. So I'm just looking for, like, you said you structure your deals with promissory notes, and then also tying them to the property sometimes as well. Just wondering if you had any templates for the promissory notes that you use.
so I do have a template. Unfortunately, I give that to my mentees. And so if you guys do want to join my program, I'll give you guys how to access that at the end. But these are promissory notes that I've had my attorneys draw up. Your deed of trust, that is something that your title company is going to draw up for you, and they're going to record that deed for you. So typically what you'll do is once you have the promissory note, you'll send that over to the title company. The title company draws up records the deed of trust. And then as far as the insurance goes, that's just a phone call or an email to your insurance company saying, hey, I want to add this person to the insurance.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome. I'm not sure if
I have a
Justin might have another
question.
question. Oh, yeah, go for it, please.
Oh, okay. So my question, are you already under contract for your deals before you are raising money, or is that something, are you basically building a pool of money to have for deals that come your way?
So when I first started off, I did not have a pool of private money lenders. So literally, we were under contract and I had like 20 days to go out and raise the money on my first time. Nowadays, I'll just give you an example for this deal that we just closed last week. So I went out to the property, I looked at the property, inspected the property. This is before I even got it under contract. Decided that I wanted it. That same day, I told the wholesaler, hey, I want this property. Go ahead and send me the assignment agreement. The assignment contract basically says that I had, I think, 48 hours to submit my earnest money deposit. And so that day that I looked at the property, I reached out to my friend Maya and said, hey, I've got this property. I want to get it under contract. My earnest money deposit's $3,000. Are you a yay or a nay? She was like, I'm a yay. I'm like, perfect. So within like, I would say an hour of me signing my assignment contract, I already had my earnest money deposit private money lender. So once she wired those funds to the title company the very next day, now I'm officially under contract. But that night, once I knew that she was a go, I started to create the pitch deck. And that night I sent it out to like all my private money lenders. So I guess you can say like I'm kind of doing it simultaneously, getting the property under contract, getting somebody secured for my earnest money deposit. And like, once I know that those two things are like a go, then I'm shooting it out to like all my private money lenders. So like the very next day, I had a private money lender that was like, oh yeah, Tilisa, I'd like to lend on this deal. However, that private money lender was moving, he was kind of moving his feet like a little slow. And I had to keep on like reaching out to him like, hey, are you gonna sign the promissory note? You know, you're gonna do this. And I noticed that he was like really getting slow with his responses. And so I called him like, hey, what's going on? Like, dude, we've got to move. He's just like, Tilisa, I'm sorry, but you know, we just purchased 3 lots in Petersburg and we're trying to figure out how we're going to get these things built. And I think I'm just a little bit way over my head and I didn't know how to tell you. And I'm like, it's cool, dude. I just need you to tell me. I just need you to communicate with me. That way I can reach out to one of my other private money lenders. So it had literally been about 4 days that I feel like I wasted just waiting on him to tell me that he was like not really ready to go. And so the moment that he told me, I started reaching out to some of my other private money lenders. And then within 30 minutes, I had another lender that was like, yep, send me the contracts. So that's typically how it works with me.
Super helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Dan. I did
Question,
have another
Tiffany?
question.
Go for it, Justin.
All right. So with your investors, I guess what due diligence or background are you doing on them, right? Because just because somebody gives you money doesn't necessarily mean, I guess, that they're a good person to be working with. So what's your kind of background on that?
That is such a good question. I'm so glad that you asked that, Justin, because I don't let just anybody give me their money. I am very much, I want to get to know you. So one thing, all of my private money lenders, I've built a relationship with them over time. So I think that the only one that I actually allowed to lend to me, like without knowing him, was the guy that I met on the plane. But everybody else after that, I get to know them first. The moment that they're like, oh yeah, you know, I want to become your private money lender. I'm all about relationship building. So I'll invite them to coffee. There's been times where I've attended church with them. We've gone to the gym together. Like, I try to get to know these people because I want to make sure that you have as much integrity as I have. And I want to make sure that you're not going to hound me. What I don't need is a private money lender texting me every 5 minutes, hey, what's the status of that project? Or, hey, when's this going to get done? That's what I don't need. So if I start to feel like that energy, like you're trying to be my daddy, it's not going to work. So very, very, very good question. I think that you guys need to vet these people just as much as they are vetting you. Invite them to lunch. Ask them, can you attend church with them? Go to the gym with them. Go to the museum with them. If you start to feel like your spidey senses are like, oh no, this person's a little wacky, I don't care how much money they have to invest with you. Everybody can invest with me. I don't need everybody's money. I'm not desperate, and neither are you guys. You guys be very selective about who you take, whose money you take. Good question, Justin.
Perfect. Another one. Do you ever put any of your own money in on the deals? I know it's most likely in most situations, it's always better to use OPM, but are there situations where you like, hey, I don't really want to pay interest. I want to keep this property all mine, to every penny that I get, I want it going directly into my account?
No.
Okay.
And I say this because When I got into private money, the only reason why I wanted to do it is because I did not want to have to come out of pocket. At one, when I started, I didn't have any money to come out of pocket myself to put any skin in the game. And I know a lot of people are like, well, what's your skin in the game? You need skin in the game. I know a lot of you probably like vouch by that. I'm like, why? If I show you that I'm capable of doing this, the numbers are working, you see my integrity, that is my skin in the game. I am doing all of the operations. You are doing nothing. You are literally sitting back on your couch watching Netflix, waiting for your interest payment to come in. So my skin in the game is having to deal with all the stress of the actual property. Now, some of you may be opposed to that, and you may feel like, I'm going to put at least this amount of money in. I think that, you guys need to decide if that's what you want to do. But me personally, all 100% OPM.
Okay, deal. And then, all right, so you've been giving out a lot of great information. I kind of want to ask, like, I guess a brag question for yourself. Like, what's the biggest deal that you've done to date that you like, I really did my thing on that one?
My biggest deal, I mean, as far as like the value of the property or like how much money I'm profiting from the property, be a little specific, because I'll say that my biggest deal was probably my very first deal, the apartment, the fourplex that we bought. That was probably the most valuable property. However, that property, the cash flow on it, it's okay. It's not like a game changer. However, some of my single families that I have where I'm renting out multiple rooms, they're freaking cash cows. And I'm just like, man, these mugs are sweet. I'll do a couple more of these any day. So I guess it just kind of depends on what you mean by like your biggest deal.
Okay, I'd probably say the one that I guess maybe cash flowed the most, that maybe you
Yeah,
weren't expecting, kind of thing.
yeah, it's going to be one of the single families because so my exit strategy is I rent out bedrooms or sometimes beds. And so I'm looking for 4 to 5 bedroom houses where I can put 2 beds in each room and I'm able to rent those beds. And these are very these people that are renting these beds, these are not like your everyday person. These are individuals like women who have experienced domestic violence or people who are on disability and they can't afford an apartment because an apartment's $1,500 plus deposit plus they have to have credit. So I'm renting these beds out for like $800 per bed. And so you could imagine in a 4 or 5 bedroom home, I can rent out about 10 beds. So 10 beds at $800 a month, you can kind of do the math. It cash flows like a multifamily and your expenses are that of a single family. So
Yeah, I'm not mad at that. Okay, appreciate you.
yes. So it's not through pad split, Edward. I do know what pad split is. And I think that that's an amazing strategy, but this is not through pad split. And for those of you who don't know what pad split is, you're taking those common spaces like your dining room, your den, and you're turning those into additional bedrooms by adding, walls and stuff like that. And so that's not exactly what I'm doing. I have turned a dining room into a bedroom, but that was so that I could house my house manager who basically manages the house to make sure that everything stays on the up and up. And so that's another reason why I like this exit strategy is because it's kind of like you have like on-site property management there all the time. And so if I am creating another bedroom, it's typically going to be for a house manager who's not paying anything to be there. Good questions.
It was some good questions. I don't think we have any more, though. I'm just scrolling through the chat.
Awesome. So Dan, I wasn't sure if you had a question or not.
I have got a question. It's about professionalism, or how you, when you're taking money from people. I imagine, and certainly this is my experience, that it's super important to demonstrate your professionality and to come across as a professional business or a professional outfit. And how do you go about that? Was it the case of creating a website, creating a business structure, making sure you had all of the kind of documentation or visibility on the internet, for example, where people could say, "Oh, this is a professional person who has a specific set of goals and a specific set of outlines on how they do their investments"? Is that something that you did from the start? Is it something that you progressed into over time? How did you go about that?
Yes, I think that I feel like everybody always needs to present themselves as a poised, polished professional. I'm not saying that you have to be like have an MBA like I have, or you have to be an accounting professional or whatever. But it is very important that you present yourself poised and polished, and then also your credibility pieces, protecting, securing, ensuring, and being able to explain what that promissory note is, what that deed of trust is. All of those things are your credibility piece. Your pitch deck, the presentation that you're using to present this information to a potential private money lender. Even if you're not good at presentations, hire somebody on Fiverr, pay them $30 to put a nice presentation together for you. Because yes, your appearance and how you present yourself ultimately, people look at it's first impression. When I started off, I didn't have a website. Yes, I had a social media presence, and I tried to keep it very much real estate related. Although every now and again, I've got my family on there, which people like to see, but it wasn't a requirement for me to have a website. Nobody was like, well, what's your website or what's this? The way that I presented myself from the moment that we interacted with each other all the way up until I invited them to the webinar, that all had I think it had a really important place in them being able to know that like they can trust this individual. Now I will say though that not everybody, like I know I've got some accolades that kind of help me. Like I was saying, I do have an MBA. I am an accounting professional. And I think that those things kind of help me. I've worked in the corporate space before, so I know policies and procedures and systems and things. And so all of those things I know attributed to their overall confidence in me. Everybody doesn't have that. And so what I will say is if you're on social media and you've got a profile picture with your middle finger up, you probably want to take that down. If you've got a bunch of pictures and videos where you're drinking at the bar, I mean, you do your thing, but don't post it. You know what I mean? Because the first thing that people are going to do is they're going to find you on Facebook. They're going to find you on social media. Not everybody necessarily wants you to have like a website. A lot of people who are doing this don't have a website. So I won't say that you need that, but it all helps. So I do have a website. I do have, a nice social media where I'm displaying the types of business that I'm doing. I do have like my credibility pieces, like my pitch deck, my presentation. When I get my private money lenders money, I have a shared file that I pay like $30 a month for, where all of their documents can be accessed on a shared folder. And so from the moment we close, all the closing docs, the promissory note, the deed of trust, everything is in there. So they never have to ask me. They just have to log in and they can go right to it. If they're sending me their information, like their wire instructions, everything's going to go in there. So I think having those things in place gives them like a little bit more, it puts them a little bit more at ease, knowing that they're actually dealing with a real professional and not just somebody who's trying to pretend that they're professional. And then when they get into the deal, find out that this person is not organized. This person doesn't know how to maintain their bookkeeping. This person really doesn't know how to communicate. Whatever I tell my private money lenders I'm going to do, I do. So if I tell them, hey, I'm going to call you in 2 days at 5 o'clock, keep your word. Call them in 2 days at 5 o'clock. If you tell them, hey, I'm going to send you this form, send them the form. I actually did an interview with one of my private money lenders on my podcast, And that was one of the very things that she said about me. She says, Tilisa, when you say that you're going to do something, you do it. And that's so big. She says, from when you're going to call me, when you're going to send me, these forms, she says, whatever it is. And she says, and that really helped me to build trust with you. And so, Dan, hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, really good. I always think, from my own experience, even just something as simple as a website for your domain, when you send an email, is really helpful. It doesn't require you to necessarily have or spend the money for a website design, but just having a domain, so you're not coming from Gmail or Yahoo, demonstrates a level of professionality that people kind of expect, but also sets people's mind at ease a little bit. So I definitely resonate with a lot of what you said, and I assume testimonials probably is something that you would rely on as well. And testimonials, I think, what's better than relying on somebody else's review of you? So
exactly. So that's why I'm like, anytime I'm able to, ask a private money lender to give me a review, if you guys go to my Instagram right now, you'll find that a video of John. John was my first private money lender that I met on an airplane. He did a short little video clip where he's like, yep, I met Tilisa on an airplane. She was so kind. We were talking back and forth. And then I told her I wanted to invest with her. So he's telling his story. He's saying exactly what I'm telling you guys. And it's like, I'm not shy when it comes to, hey, you say that you really like my services. Would you mind giving me a review? I'm not shy when it comes to that. And if they do say, yeah, I'll do a review, but I'm really shy on the camera, can I just give you a written review? Cool. I'll take whatever you're able to give. So yeah.
Amen to that. That's exactly what I thought you were going to say. So it's great. Let me just scroll through the chat, make sure there are any other questions. I don't think they are. No, I think we've exhausted everyone's questions. Unless somebody wants to quickly jump on the mic. Just checking. Last minute. Okay, cool. I'll put all of Talisa's links in the chat. I'm also going to put the link, this image of a private money course, and the links to her socials in the Telegram group. So everybody has the ability to give her a follow. Please give Tilisa a follow. She's taken her time to educate us and to provide us information. So I think it's the least we can do to click on her links and give her a follow. Make sure that we get more information from her as well. So thank you very much, Tilisa. And I don't know if Antonio is still on.
Well, yeah,
if he is, I will let you close out, sir.
Oh no, I don't think she's finished. You can finish.
If there's more, well, I'm ready for more.
No, this is the end. So on June 3rd, which is actually Monday, I'm taking a group of 15 people under my wing. I'm showing them how to raise private money from A to Z with integrity. This group will be meeting virtually once a week, and we're going to learn how to raise private money in 60 days. So by the time you end the program, if you followed all the steps, you've completed all the homework, you've attended all the coaching calls, and you still weren't able to raise at least $50,000, I will refund you 100% of your money back. So if you're interested in being a part of this group, I actually have 6 spots left. I'm sorry, nope, I lied. I've got 5 spots left. If you're interested, please reach out. I've also put a link in the chat. It's probably like the very first link on top of everybody else's comments. But yeah, click on the link, join us on Monday, and learn how to raise private money for your deals. Other than that, I think, yep, now we're done. Thank you, guys.
I was trying to find the link. I guess it's taking a long time for me to scroll up. But in the meantime, you mentioned earlier about taking like meeting people.
It's in the links. If it's the herinvestments.org/her private money course, it's in the links.
Is that the one?
Okay.
Is that it?
This one?
Yeah, I found it too. That's it.
Yeah, it's this one.
I'm pretty sure that's it. I can't see. I scrolled all the way up to the top. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it is.
And I just posted it again. It's in there like times ago.
Well, yeah. Other than that, I appreciate it for sure. You didn't mention where you located. I don't think you mentioned that.
Yeah, so I'm actually currently staying in Alabama. I'm kind of a nomad right now. I'm really wherever my real estate calls me. So a few weeks ago, I was in Florida. Now I'm in Alabama. Next week, I could be in Richmond. We try to have properties just about everywhere so that if we need to pick up and move closer to another property, we have that flexibility, which is kind of what me and my husband said we wanted to do when we got into this 3 years ago. We want to have a property in just about every state so that if we want to just pick up and go, we can. So right now I'm in Alabama. I don't know,
What section
Yeah.
of Alabama are you in, Tilisa?
I'm in Tressville, which is about 20 minutes away from Birmingham.
Okay, I'm in Selma actually as we speak. That's why I invest in Selma.
Where are you at?
Selma, Alabama.
Oh, you're not too far.
Yep.
Yes. You might have to come see me at one of my new properties we just acquired, girl.
That would be fantastic. I'll definitely touch base with you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, we appreciate you for coming for sure. I'll post a link in the group, me or Dan, if I can find it real quick, for the Telegram group, because I know there's a lot of people on here that's not in the Telegram group.
Oh, is there not? Wow. Well, then we need to fix that right now. I'm gonna do it right now. Here we go.
I was trying to find it real quick, but definitely appreciate you, Tilisa. Yeah, there you go. Perfect. He just posted it in there. There you go. So join that next week. I'm not sure what's next week, but we'll post it in the Telegram group when we do know. And we thank y'all for coming, for sure. Thank you again, Tilisa. Y'all have a good evening.
Bye.